Howdy, folks, and welcome to another episode of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere. I'm your host, Connor Jones, and I am here this week sharing yet another story coming to you from just about as close as you can get to the middle of nowhere. That is Poverty Flats, Wyoming. But first, a message from our sponsors. This week, our sponsor is Basin Pharmacy, found in Basin, Wyoming. Basin Pharmacy is your hometown pharmacy, as well as your source for over-the-counter medicine, vitamins and supplements, and office supplies. You can find Russell Stover chocolates and greeting cards, among other fine products, at their store. Stop in Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. We're also sponsored here by the Wyoming Welcome Program. They are running a program called Table Talk, in which they place brochures on restaurant tables in Cody and Powell that are filled with fun facts about Wyoming, jokes, and the month's holidays. In addition to this information, they include advertisements from local businesses. So, if you happen to be a local business, feel free to reach out and join their Table Talk brochure program. They'd love to help you advertise and get your name out there. So you can email them at HaleyJ, that's HALEYJ, at WyomingWelcome.com. And now, the podcast. November is in full swing, and it's hard to believe that the holiday season is right around the corner. You can tell that it's hunting season because there's a lot of guys driving around very slowly in old pickup trucks wearing orange. And I am finally back in Wyoming with my Wyoming residency again, after having spent a few years living in Idaho. So I've joined the ranks of the hunters this year. Can't say that I've been too successful as of yet, but hopefully here in the next couple days before my season closes, I can find something to fill our freezers before the winter sets in. With the advent of hunting season, I decided to share a story entitled The Ideal Hunting Partner. So here goes. When I was a kid, knowing who to hunt with was obvious. My dad took my little brother Caldwell, my twin brother Fred, and me out to hike around the hills in search of deer, or drove us up to the cabin in the trusty old maroon Ford F-150 to scale mountains in pursuit of elk. Now, as an adult, I find myself wondering how to choose someone to take hunting in the event my dad or a brother is not available. I'm sure you too have looked around your place of work and wondered whom you could possibly trust to venture back into the wilds with you. Obviously, this is an important choice. The individual you choose as a hunting buddy will be entrusted with a lot of personal information and possibly even some family secrets. Another item of consideration is the fact that said person will be accompanying you far away from civilization and will be armed the entire time with both a rifle, potentially a sidearm, and at least one very large knife. You can't take just anyone to a place where they have both means and opportunity to make sure no one finds you for a very long time. With all this in mind, I have given a lot of thought to some of the most important things to consider when choosing the ideal hunting buddy. This can be easier said than done, since the ideal and reality seldom align, as Plato can attest. Here I will attempt to provide you with some pointers that will hopefully assist you in choosing an individual with whom you will share a great hunting experience, and not a nightmarish experience that will become a source of embarrassment for you and a source of entertainment for your family. First off, never choose to hunt with someone by the name of Igor. It's just been my experience that anyone named Igor either didn't have parents that loved them, or worse, chose the name themselves. This is an obvious sign of mental instability, and a pretty good indication you don't want to spend a lot of time alone with this person while he is armed with a large caliber rifle. For anyone who is listening to this and goes by the name of Igor, kindly remember my name is Fred Jones, not Al. Another item to be considered is whether your potential hunting buddy is already a hunter or not. There are a few scenarios that can play out, depending on the hunting status of your candidate for hunting partner. If the individual is not a hunter, then chances are they will not want to go hunting with you. I once asked a non-hunter from work to accompany me and found out quite suddenly he is a vegetarian, and now he won't let me forget about it. That being said, if an individual is not a hunter, there is still a chance they may have an interest in accompanying you so they can learn how it's done, especially if they are not a vegetarian. This could be very beneficial for both parties involved. On the one hand, your non-hunter hunting buddy will gain some important skills that they would not have otherwise attained. For instance, they will learn that when someone invites you to come out on what will be your first hunting trip, there's a good chance you are really coming along to carry out whatever the more experienced hunter shoots. You, on the other hand, will benefit by getting someone to come carry out whatever you shoot. It's a win-win situation in my book. Asking someone to join you on a hunt after you have already done the hunting is also not a great option. Soon after I moved back to northwestern Wyoming, my cousin Jim called me up. "Hey, Al," he said. "What's up, Jim? Good to hear from you," I replied. It was September, and my wife Lily was working me through the honey-do list that I had not quite finished during the summer months. Does it surprise you I put off plumbing for the entire summer? "Yeah, good to hear from you, too," he said, his voice a little strained by labored breathing. "You, moved back to Wyoming, right?" he asked. "Yep, been here for a few months now." "Okay, I thought so," he said. "Listen, how would you like to come up the mountain and, help me pack out an elk?" His voice was a bit sheepish as he said it, but he was obviously very hopeful my answer would be in the affirmative. I looked down at the plumbing snake in my hand and over at the sink I had been trying to unclog for approximately 35 hours. "I'd love to," I began, but glanced up to where Lily was shooting laser beams at me with her eyes. But I'm in the middle of a plumbing project," I continued glumly. "I see," he said, crestfallen. "Well, no worries," he grunted. "Maybe next time," I said a bit wistfully. "Good luck, man." "Thanks," Jim grunted. From the sound of it, he was already standing underneath half an elk. "Talk to you later." "Yeah, talk to you later," I replied. When I hung up, Lily approached, her hands on her hips. "Who was that?" she asked. "Oh, it was Jim. He wanted me to come hunting with him." Lily raised her eyebrows. "He wanted you to come hunting with him? When?" "Today," I shrugged. "Why didn't he ask you earlier?" she asked. "Well, he kind of shot an elk already," I said, trying to give her a winning smile. It's hard to do when you're smeared head to foot with the contents of a clogged drain, let me tell you. "So he's not really asking you to go hunting," Lily huffed. "The hunting is already over. You just wanted to get out of fixing this sink." I grinned sheepishly and went back to work. So, as you can see, asking someone to go hunting after you have done the hunting is rarely a fruitful endeavor. It should be noted that if someone does want to come pack out whatever you shot, They are either engaged in a task that is less pleasant than packing a couple 100 pounds of dead meat off a mountain, or they fall into another dangerous category, the outdoor fitness enthusiast. This category of hunter should be avoided at all costs. They are easily recognized by their bronzed features and the way their calf muscles threaten to explode from their pant legs. If you hear someone talking about any kind of race with the word ultra in it, I would definitely rule them out. While living in Idaho, I was on the lookout for potential hunting partners because I was new to the area and had little idea of where I could go for a successful hunt. One day I happened to overhear a conversation at lunch in which one of the participants, a man by the name of Trenton, was showing off pictures of a buck he had bagged over the weekend. "Look at the size of that thing," Trenton's friend was saying. "That's one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen." My interest was piqued. "Yeah, I've got another tag and I'm going out this weekend," Trenton said. My interest was now wagging its tail and running around in little circles with its tongue lolling out. "What are you up to?" Trenton asked his friend. "Want to come breathe some mountain air?" "I would, but my kid has a soccer game," Trenton's friend replied. "Ahem," I began. Trenton looked up, noticing me for the first time. "Excuse me," I said. "I couldn't help overhearing you're a hunter." "I'm a hunter too," I said. This is a classic lead-in, and I highly suggest it. What it lacks in originality, it makes up for with simplicity. "Oh, cool," Trenton said, beaming. "I'm new to the area, so I don't know where the best hunting spots are," I added. It's basic hunter's etiquette not to directly ask someone where exactly they shot a trophy buck. "Well," Trenton said, his interest now piqued, "I'm heading out this weekend. Want to come?" If I had any idea what I was getting into, I would have told the little dog inside me to quit yipping and jumping up and down like a maniac. That being said, I actually had no idea what I was getting into, and so I gladly accepted Trenton's invitation. On the morning of the hunt, I met Trenton at his place at the crack of dawn, and we rode in his truck up into the area around the Palisades Reservoir. We chatted about hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. He waxed poetic as he described the area we were going to hunt and the massive bucks he had seen there. My excitement was growing with every mile. Then, Trenton described in detail how he had participated in an ultra-Spartan marathon sufferfest the previous summer. My excitement wavered. I tried to wave off my growing anxiety, but I was starting to realize I may have made a small mistake. Oh, how naive I was. When we stopped, Trenton stretched like an Olympic athlete limbering up, then slung his rifle over his shoulder and said, "All righty, let's go." He then bolted off straight up the nearest mountain. Caught off guard, I quickly turned to look behind me, fully expecting to see Yellowstone had erupted, or at least the mushroom cloud from a nuclear blast. I'd never seen anyone move that fast unless they were fleeing for their life, and I couldn't believe Trenton was fleeing anything less than a zombie apocalypse. Seeing nothing that would suggest the world was ending, I turned back in time to see Trenton disappearing over a ridge. By the time I caught up to him an hour later, I was gasping for air and drenched in sweat. As I trudged up the final yards to the top of the mountain peak where Trenton was now perched with his binoculars glassing for deer, I collapsed. In desperation, I grabbed a large rock, which I began beating against my chest in the hope it would restart my heart and half a dozen other vital organs that had begun shutting down. "Nothing like some fresh air," Trenton grinned, unfazed by my sudden fit of cardiac arrest. I couldn't help but wonder if I was his first victim. With the first beams of sunlight that made their way over the horizon, I could now clearly see Trenton's bronzed complexion, and the rest of the day I watched his calves threaten to explode out of his pant legs as I tried desperately to keep up with him. That was my first and last time choosing an outdoor fitness enthusiast for a hunting partner. Here are a few more things you should avoid when selecting a hunting buddy. Number 1. Anyone who wears a fanny pack. Seriously. Number 2. Individuals who are of a different political affiliation than yourself. As you can probably surmise, you'll most likely spend at least a few hours talking to a hunting partner, and you can bet politics will come up at some point. Disagreeing on deep-seated political beliefs while holding a rifle is never a great idea. Number 3. Those who exhibit warning signs of mental instability. This can be harder than you think to accomplish. Occasionally, a crazy person hides their insanity very well until they are miles away from civilization. There are telltale signs of mental instability, of course. Watch out for anyone who is meticulously organized to the point of obsession. A grown man who still carries a stuffed animal is another dead giveaway. At the same time, you may have no idea you are dealing with a crazy person until it's too late. I once took a guy named Ted hunting, and he had every appearance of being sane until lunchtime. We found a spot to watch for elk, then began eating our lunches. He pulled out some string cheese and unwrapped it. I didn't think anything of it until he began to eat. As I watched in utter horror, he proceeded to bite the end off like he had done nothing wrong. Everyone knows that only someone who is criminally insane bites string cheese rather than peeling it like a cheese banana. I was on edge the entire day, but luckily Ted didn't snap while we were hunting. I kept watching him to see if he would do anything else that would betray his unhinged nature. But fortunately for me, he didn't fly into a homicidal rage or anything of that nature during the rest of our hunt. Number 4, vegans. Or is it vegans? I can't keep that one straight. For many reasons, vegans make poor hunting partners. I once knew one whom I considered asking to come hunting, but I never got desperate enough to try it. Number 5, women, especially those you want to know for very long. I, of course, am writing from a man's point of view on this topic. Women can make excellent hunting partners. I'm sure anyone who went hunting with Annie Oakley was more than happy to have her company. I've even heard of men whose wives love hunting with them. That being said, for single guys, I would caution against hunting with any woman you may be romantically interested in. One of 3 scenarios will likely play out if you find a woman who is willing to go hunting with you. Either A, you will shoot at a deer and miss because you're so nervous she is watching, and she will think you are a terrible hunter and never see you again, or B, you won't even see a deer, and she will think you are a terrible hunter and never see you again. There's also a good chance of option C playing out. In this scenario, she will shoot a deer and you won't, which has basically the same results as options A and B. So, as a general rule, I would avoid taking women hunting. For the women who are reading this or listening, I've never heard of a couple gals hunting together. If anyone else has, I invite them to write to me and let me know about the results. Number 6. Anyone who has a deep-seated love of any one singer or band. Often hunting begins and ends with a long car ride. After listening to the same Taylor Swift album for 5 hours, anyone would be ready to jump out of a moving vehicle. It seems most of my advice revolves around things to avoid, but I do have a few pointers on what to look for in a hunting companion. I've already mentioned the important role physical fitness plays in this decision, and there is, in fact, an ideal fitness level for the person you choose to take on your next hunting trip. I'm afraid to say there is not a specific BMI or VO2 max that hunters should look for. The truth is, it varies for every hunter, since the ideal fitness level for any hunting companion is in fact one that is slightly lower than your own. There are many reasons for this. First, if you choose someone who is slightly less fit than yourself, you can avoid the chagrin of slowing down the hunt. Trust me, it is far more enjoyable to be the one waiting for someone to reach the top of a ridge, rather than being the one making everybody else wait while you heave yourself up a ridge one agonizing step at a time. At the same time, if the person you are hunting with is in far worse shape than you may find yourself spending the majority of your hunt waiting for someone to heave themselves up a ridge, one agonizing step at a time. Another reason the person you choose should be slightly less fit than yourself is the safety it provides in the event you need to outrun them, say, when being chased by a hungry bear. That being said, if you can't find someone who is less physically fit than you, a possibility that looms ever larger the older I get, you can always brush up on your martial arts. No matter the fitness level of your hunting companion, should the need arise, a well-placed kick will ensure that between the two of you, you are the faster human. I would also advise that you find a hunter to join you who suffers from mild to moderate short-term memory loss. The perfect pal for your hunting trip will not remember your trip well enough to share over and over in great detail how you missed an easy broadside shot on a monster buck at a measly 150 yards, and will yet recall how to get back to the truck when darkness falls and both of you neglected to bring a flashlight. Some care should be taken to ensure your hunting partner does not suffer from severe short-term memory loss, however. I have learned this the hard way after years of hunting with my pal Marty Flincherton. Marty suffers from such severe short-term memory loss, he is notorious for forgetting such vital details as my name, and we've been friends for years. You see, every time he shares a story about one of my many outdoor exploits that ended in success, he seems to forget my name is Al. More than once, I've had to correct him during a story in which he erroneously claims Fred shot such and such bull elk on such and such hunting trip. By the way, if Igor is listening, you can just forget this part about my name being Al. Marty also has an annoying knack for attaching my name to embarrassing mistakes. You would think he could remember Fred was the twin who mistook a bull moose for an elk in 5th grade, not me. It's a good thing they issue driver's licenses with the owner's name printed on them, because I wouldn't be surprised if Marty has to refer to his once in a while, just to be sure he hasn't forgotten his own name. Last but not least, you need to consider hygiene in the selection process. This might not be high on your list, but I'm serious. It's a real consideration. As an experienced outdoorsman who has shared the interior of pickup cabs and two-man tents on multiple occasions, I can tell you that spending time with an unwashed man can be a grueling experience. I once unwittingly invited a near relative of Sasquatch on a trip up the Bighorns, and the trip back was terrible. If I hadn't had the windows rolled down the whole way home, I'm sure I would have asphyxiated. The guy made it hard to find another hunting companion, though. Apparently, the fact that I made him endure 3 hours of driving in sub-zero weather with the windows rolled down got around and ruined my chances of getting another guy from work to join me on a hunt. But in my opinion, this inconvenience far outweighed the alternative. Nothing dampens the mood on a hunt like the unholy stench of BO. Not that you can entirely avoid it, but if a guy is unbearably malodorous in the office, he's going to be the equivalent of toxic waste after hiking for a few hours in long johns and a parka. Just be sure when you're testing the waters at work that you hide your sniffing behind the pretense of a cold. Most men don't take too kindly to getting sniffed by other guys, and any guy who does can be ruled out as a hunting companion. Well, that about exhausts all the advice I can think of. If I left out anything, be sure to let me know. In the meantime, if you're listening to all of this and meet the outlined criteria, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always on the lookout for a new hunting companion, especially since they seem to have become so scarce lately. Maybe if I stopped biting the end off my cheese sticks or showered more often, I'd have more luck. Just remember, if all else fails, you can always buy a dog. They seldom complain about BO, don't seem to care what your fitness level is, and regardless of how much they remember about your successes and failures, they can't tell anyone about your latest outdoor mishaps. The trick is to find just the right dog, but that is a story for another time. Well, there you go. All the advice I have on finding the ideal hunting partner. You do want to make that choice wisely because you never know who you're going to find yourself out in the woods or up on the mountain with. And, the right hunting partner can be essential. This year I took my oldest son Reuben hunting for the first time, and while we were waiting on a hill watching for deer, he busied himself by playing in some dirt. I don't know if he will get over his little dirt obsession anytime soon, but at least it kept him occupied while we were waiting for a deer to appear. If you have any further pointers about finding a good hunting companion, or maybe some experiences about hunting yourself, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to hear from you, and you can message me on Facebook, just like one listener recently did. Megan Gardner reached out to me recently to say, I've been listening to your podcast the last little bit, and it's been so good. My grandma, who is Janelle, my grandma's sister, introduced me to it when she came up to visit last week. I think she's your podcast's biggest fan because she's been having everyone in the family listen to it. Ha ha. I haven't been able to stop listening since, and it's been so much fun. It's definitely brought some laughs to my daily commute to and from work. Anyways, just wanted to let you know lots of people on the Tobler side have been enjoying your podcast. Thanks for sharing your gift of humor and storytelling. It's been so much fun. Thanks so much, Megan. Glad to hear you're all enjoying the podcast. And a special shout out to my Aunt Janelle. It's good to hear that you're enjoying the show as well. Well, this has been another episode of Untold Tales from this side of nowhere, where we work twice as hard for half as much and still find time for the important things, like fishing. Catch you next time, folks.